Hey guys, tonight we settle into the long, dark, and surprisingly noisy nights of the Victorian era. Picture it. You're lying in a heavy four-poster bed. The gaslight in the street outside is casting flickering, dancing shadows on your ceiling, and the air is thick with the smell of coal smoke and damp wool. You've been trying to drift off for hours, but your mind is a whirring, clanking machine of anxieties, just like the new factories on the edge of town. We're going to explore the bizarre and often terrifying contraptions you, as a sleepless Victorian, might have turned to for a moment's peace. Given that many of these cures involve things like uncontrolled electricity, questionable narcotics, and being strapped into machines that look like medieval torture devices, you probably won't survive this. But we'll give it a go. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always lovely to know who's listening, so feel free to post your location and what time it is in your part of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your eyes are wide open, staring into the oppressive darkness of your bedroom. The silence you crave is a forgotten luxury. This is the great paradox of your modern, industrial age. The world has never been louder, and yet you've never felt more alone in your sleeplessness. You can hear the distant, rhythmic clang of a factory hammer, a sound that doesn't seem to cease, day or night. A reminder of progress, of profit, of the relentless march of industry that is supposed to be making your life better. Closer, you hear the clatter of a late-night carriage on the cobblestones, its wheels grinding, the horse's hooves striking sparks. The city is a living beast, and its breathing is keeping you awake. You roll over for what feels like the 100th time, the horsehair mattress rustling beneath you. The sheets are linen, cool at first, but now they feel clammy and twisted around your legs. You try to regulate your breathing, just as you read in a penny dreadful pamphlet on the art of repose. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8, but your heart thuds against your ribs, a frantic, untamed drum, entirely out of sync. Your mind is the real culprit. It's a chaotic ledger of the day's events and tomorrow's worries. Did you use the correct salutation in that letter to your aunt? Was your comment about Mr. Gladstone's foreign policy overheard at dinner? You picture the faces of your colleagues, your rivals, searching for any hint of mockery or disapproval. This new world is built on a scaffolding of intricate social rules, and a single misstep can feel like a tumble into ruin. It's this pressure, this new Victorian ideal of constant self-monitoring and improvement, that has declared war on sleep. A popular writer of the day calls it neurasthenia, a fashionable diagnosis for a condition of nervous exhaustion. Historians still argue whether this was a distinct medical reality brought on by the frantic pace of modern life or simply a new label for the age-old anxieties of the affluent. For you, all you know is that your nerves feel frayed, like a rope stretched to its breaking point. Your brain, you've been told, is an organ, just like your liver or your heart. And right now, you're convinced it's overheated. It's generating too much thought, too much worry, like a steam engine with a faulty pressure valve. And then there are the deeper fears, the ones that lurk in the shadows of the room. You glance at the heavy velvet curtains, drawn tight to keep out the night air. But what if they also keep in the bad air? The miasma, that invisible, noxious vapor believed to carry disease. You imagine it swirling around your bed, a silent, creeping poison. You try to take a deep breath but then worry you're just inhaling more of the stagnant, bedroom air, filled with your own exhausted exhalations. It's a ridiculous thought, but in the lonely hours of the night, it feels profoundly, terrifyingly real. It's no wonder people are so afraid of being buried alive. This fear, taphophobia, has become a quiet obsession for many. You've seen advertisements for safety coffins, fitted with bells, breathing tubes, and even elaborate pulley systems to alert the living. A part of your sleep-deprived brain makes a grim joke. If you finally did manage to fall into a deep, unshakable sleep, would they mistake it for the real thing? Better not sleep too soundly. This has to stop. You can't face another day of yawning behind your hand, of feeling dull-witted and hollowed out. You are a person of the 19th century, an individual living in an age of unprecedented innovation and scientific marvels. There are machines that can weave cloth faster than 100 women, engines that can cross the country in a single day, and wires that can carry a message across the ocean in minutes. Surely, you think, as you stare at the first, faint, gray light beginning to silhouette the window frame. Surely someone has invented a machine to solve a problem as simple, as fundamental, as sleep. Your desperation is hardening into resolve. You will not be defeated by a pillow and a quiet room. Tomorrow, you will seek out a modern solution. A scientific remedy. Something with gears and steam and the reassuring solidity of iron and polished wood. Your resolve carries you out of the heavy stillness of your home and into the bustling London streets. The city, which seemed so monstrous in the lonely quiet of the night, is now a place of possibility. You scan the papers, you discreetly ask your physician about new treatments for nervous afflictions, and soon a name begins to surface: Dr. Joseph Mortimer Granville. He is a man of science, a respected physician with a bold, new, and wonderfully mechanical theory of healing. He has invented a device, a true product of the age, designed to soothe the very nerves that plague you. It is called the percutor. The name itself sounds impressive, scientific, and reassuringly forceful. You find yourself in his well-appointed consulting rooms a week later, the scent of carbolic acid and oiled metal hanging in the air. Dr. Granville is an energetic man with intense eyes, and he explains his invention with a passion that is both convincing and slightly unnerving. Your sleeplessness, he explains, is likely due to a torpor in your nervous system. A blockage. The natural flow of nervous energy has become sluggish, stagnant, much like the air in your bedroom you so feared. The solution, therefore, is stimulation. The percutor, he says with a grand gesture toward the corner of the room, is the key. And there it is. It's less a chair and more a throne of potential relief. It is a plushly upholstered recliner, but its purpose is betrayed by the machinery connected to it. In a small, adjacent room, you can hear the gentle hiss and chug of a small steam engine. A leather belt runs from a pulley in the wall to the device itself, where a complex assortment of gears and levers culminates in a long, flexible shaft with a smooth, ivory ball on the end. It looks, to your modern eye, like an instrument of interrogation that has been politely upholstered in velvet. Your doctor assures you it is the very pinnacle of therapeutic technology. The goal is to apply a rapid, percussive vibration, a mechanical nerve shaking, as he puts it, to the afflicted parts of the body to restore their natural vigor. You settle into the chair, your initial optimism now wrestling with a healthy dose of skepticism. The notion of being shaken to sleep by a steam-powered hammer seems counterintuitive. It's like trying to calm a crying baby by putting it on top of a running washing machine, a desperate, last-ditch effort that feels absurd on its face. The doctor claps his hands together. "Ready?" he asks, and before you can fully consent, he engages the clutch. The world dissolves into a juddering, vibrating hum. The chugging of the steam engine intensifies, and the ivory ball at the end of the shaft becomes a blur. Dr. Granville, with the focused air of a sculptor, applies it to the soles of your feet. The sensation is bizarre. It's a deep, bone-rattling vibration that travels up your legs and seems to make your teeth chatter in your skull. You try to relax, to embrace the science, but every muscle in your body tenses in response. He moves the percussor to your calves, then up your spine, lecturing cheerfully over the din about the particular nerve pathways he is currently unblocking. A teacup on a nearby table begins to dance, rattling in its saucer in sympathy with your vibrating skeleton. This was Dr. Granville's great insight. The mainstream historical account is that he developed this machine, the world's first powered vibrator, to treat muscular aches and nerve pain in his male patients. But the quirky and perhaps more famous tidbit is how it was almost immediately adopted by other physicians as a tool for treating the diagnosis of female hysteria. Doctors had long used manual massage to induce hysterical paroxysm as a cure for the condition, a task they apparently found laborious and time-consuming. Granville's machine was a modern, efficient, and wonderfully detached solution. Historians still argue whether Granville was genuinely oblivious to this particular application of his device, or if his later, vehement public denunciations of its use for such purposes were merely a high-minded attempt to preserve his professional dignity in the face of his invention's runaway, off-label success. But for you, sitting in this vibrating chair, none of that matters. You are not hysterical. You are just tired. You are trying to find a state of calm repose while being systematically shaken like a dusty rug. The doctor moves the device to the back of your neck, and the vibration hums directly into your skull. You close your eyes and try to imagine the promised waves of tranquility, but all you can picture is your brain being gently scrambled inside your head. "Aha!" the doctor exclaims, "I can feel the nervous energy beginning to flow again." A remarkable response. You, however, feel less of a gentle flow and more of a full-body tingling, as if you've been struck by a very mild and disappointingly persistent bolt of lightning. After 20 minutes that feel like an eternity, the machine sputters to a halt. The sudden silence is almost as jarring as the noise was. You slowly rise from the chair, your legs feeling strangely light and fuzzy. Your entire body hums with a low-grade, internal vibration. Dr. Granville pats you on the shoulder, declaring the treatment a resounding success. "You will sleep like a babe tonight," he promises, collecting his rather substantial fee. Later that evening, you lie in your bed, the memory of the machine still tingling in your nerve endings. The city outside is performing its usual symphony of late-night sounds, but it is drowned out by the persistent, internal buzzing. You feel vibrated, agitated. Your nerves don't feel soothed, they feel awoken, as if they've all been individually plucked like harp strings and are still resonating. Sleep is further away than ever. The modern, mechanical solution has failed. It has only replaced the anxiety of thought with the anxiety of sensation. Lying there, buzzing in the dark, you realize you need a different kind of energy. Not the brute force of steam and gears. Perhaps something more subtle, more mysterious, more elemental. Perhaps electricity. The failure of Dr. Granville's percussive therapy has not defeated you. It has merely refined your search. The brute force of steam and steel felt wrong, a clumsy attempt to shout down a problem that requires a whisper. The new hope, buzzing at the edges of society, is a force far more subtle and profound: electricity. This is the great, invisible mystery of your age, the etheric fluid that animates the world. It can send messages across continents in an instant through telegraph wires. Surely it can send a message of peace to your own troubled nerves. If steam power is the muscle of the modern world, electricity is its soul, and you are determined to get a dose of it. Your quest for an electrical cure doesn't lead you back to a doctor's consulting room, but rather to the pages of the popular press and the gleaming windows of chemist shops. The market is flooded with electropathic devices, each promising to restore the body's natural equilibrium. You see advertisements for electric hairbrushes to cure neuralgia and promote vigorous growth, electric insoles to draw toxins out through the feet, and even, for the truly fashion-forward and valid, electric suspenders. The sheer ingenuity of the commercial mind knows no bounds. After much consideration, you decide on a more direct approach, a wearable, day and night solution. You purchase a handsome-looking device called a galvanic belt of life. It arrives in a smart cardboard box with testimonials printed on the side. Inside, it's a wide leather belt, meant to be worn directly against the skin, studded with a series of alternating zinc and copper discs. The science, as explained by the accompanying pamphlet, is both elegant and convincing. Your body, it claims, is a battery. Illness, particularly nervous illness like your insomnia, is a sign that your personal electrical charge is low. The belt, when activated by the natural moisture of your skin, creates a gentle, continuous galvanic current which is absorbed by the body, replenishing your vital force. You are, in essence, recharging yourself like one of Mr. Edison's new storage batteries. You strap it on. It's stiff, and the metallic discs are cold against your skin. You wear it discreetly under your waistcoat during the day, feeling a secret, scientific power humming at your core. Or at least, you think you do. At night, you wear it to bed, a modern suit of armor against the anxieties of the dark. You lie perfectly still, trying to sense the invisible current. Is that a faint tingle you feel? A slight metallic taste in your mouth? Or is it just the power of suggestion, the desperate hope that this 5-shilling device is the answer to your prayers? You try to meditate on the feeling, to will the electrical fluid into your weary nerves, but the main sensation is simply the awkwardness of trying to find a comfortable position while wearing a piece of rigid leather haberdashery. After a week, you have to admit the effect is, at best, underwhelming. Your sleep is no better, and your primary achievement has been acquiring a series of faint, circular red marks around your torso. The current is too subtle, you decide. Your case must be more severe. You need a stronger dose. Your search leads you to a more serious-looking piece of equipment, a home electromedical apparatus. It comes in a beautiful, velvet-lined mahogany box. Inside, Gleaming against the royal blue fabric are two brass handles, a small induction coil, various wires, and a battery. It looks professional. It looks potent. The instruction manual is a masterpiece of complex diagrams and bold claims, promising to relieve everything from gout and rheumatism to dyspepsia and, most importantly, sleeplessness. Following the directions for nervous prostration, you connect the wires. You are instructed to hold one brass handle in your left hand while applying the other to the base of your spine. You take a breath and flip the switch. The result is immediate and startling. A sharp, buzzing, prickling sensation floods your hand and lower back. It's the familiar, unpleasant feeling of pins and needles, but generated on command. You realize with a jolt, purposefully electrocuting yourself in your own bedroom. There's a joke in there somewhere about seeking relaxation through the application of repeated, low-grade shocks. Night after night, you follow the prescribed routines. You place the electrodes on your temples, feeling the current buzz alarmingly close to your brain. You place them on your feet. You even convince your long-suffering spouse to hold one handle while you hold the other, turning you both into a human circuit of supposed healing. You desperately want to believe it's working. But the primary effect of the treatment is to make you feel tense and apprehensive before you even get into bed. The ritual itself becomes a new source of anxiety. Historians still argue whether the widespread success of electropathy was purely a testament to the power of the placebo effect in a suggestible populace, or if the novel physical sensation of the electric current itself was enough to distract the user from their psychological distress, providing a temporary, albeit illusory, form of relief. For you, the illusion is fading fast. The galvanic belt lies coiled in its box. The mahogany case of the electromedical apparatus remains shut. The invisible energy of electricity has proven no more effective than the vibrating force of steam. Lying in bed one night, the faint, sharp scent of ozone from your last failed treatment still in the air, a new wave of despair washes over you. You've tried to shake your nerves into submission. You've tried to recharge them with the fire of the universe. Both approaches assumed the problem was one of energy. But what if the problem is more fundamental? What if the issue isn't with your energy, but with your very substance? What if your body itself is impure? You don't need to be stimulated or recharged. You need to be cleansed, washed, purified from the inside out. Your next journey, you decide, will be to a place of water. Faith in portable, domestic contraptions is shattered. The problem, you now believe, is deeper. It's not a faulty nerve or a low charge. It's an impurity in your very being, a toxic residue of city life that must be washed away. You need a total immersion, a systemic purification. Your journey takes you out of the smog-choked city, rattling along in a train carriage, watching the grimy brick of London give way to the green, breathing countryside. Your destination is a hydropathic establishment, one of the grand sanatoriums built in a place like Malvern or Matlock, locations famous for the mythical purity of their air and, most importantly, their water. The establishment is an imposing stone building, half hotel, half asylum, set in acres of manicured gardens. Here, you are told, water is not just a beverage, it is medicine. You meet the head physician, a stern man with the zeal of a preacher, who explains the philosophy of the great Vincenz Priestnitz. All disease, he lectures, stems from impurities lodged in the body's tissues. The water cure is a method of stimulating the body's own vital force to expel these toxins. This is achieved through the judicious application of water, both inside and out. You will be shocked, stimulated, and sweated until your system casts out the poisons that are disrupting your natural sleep. It sounds both terrifying and wonderfully thorough. The regimen begins at once and governs every moment of your day. You are woken before sunrise by a brisk attendant. The first order of business is to drink at least 3 large glasses of cold, pure spring water. Breakfast is a Spartan affair of dry toast and milk. Gone are the comforts of tea, coffee, wine, and roasted meats. Your days are now structured around long, vigorous walks, constitutional, in the bracing country air, regardless of the weather. The core of the treatment, however, happens in the bathing halls, the tiled and echoing chambers where the true power of water is unleashed. Your first encounter is with the infamous wet sheet wrap. In a chilly, pre-dawn room, you are instructed to strip bare. An attendant takes a thick linen sheet, plunges it into a bucket of ice-cold water, wrings it out, and then, with practiced efficiency, wraps you in it from neck to toe. The shock is electrifying. Every muscle seizes, your breath catches in your throat, and an involuntary gasp escapes your lips. Before you can struggle, you are then swaddled tightly in a thick layer of heavy woolen blankets, like a miserable, shivering mummy. You are carried to a bed and left alone in the dark. The first 10 minutes are pure agony, a shivering, teeth-chattering misery. Then, slowly, your own body heat begins to fight back. The freezing sheet becomes cool, then tepid, then warm. Soon, you are intensely hot, radiating heat, and a profuse sweat breaks out all over your body. This, you were told, is the crisis, the moment the cure is working, driving the impurities out through your pores. After an hour, you are unswaddled, steaming like a pudding, and immediately plunged into a bath of cold water to close the pores. It's a brutal, shocking process. This was the cornerstone of the water cure, a major alternative medicine movement that swept across Europe and America. But the creativity of the hydrotherapists was boundless. The quirky reality was that there was a bath for nearly every part of the body. You might be prescribed a sitz bath, where you simply sit in a small tub of cold water for 20 minutes, a treatment believed to be excellent for digestive and nervous complaints. There were head baths, foot baths, and even a peculiar device called the Neptune's girdle, which was simply a damp cloth worn around the waist all day long, a kind of soggy, medical belt. Your afternoons are often spent in the douche room. This is not the delicate instrument you might imagine, but a tiled chamber where you stand, bracing yourself, while an attendant aims a high-pressure jet of frigid water at you from 10 feet away. It feels less like a therapy and more like being pelted with liquid rocks. One has to wonder if you're being cured or just tenderized. The impact of the water is supposed to invigorate the circulation, but it mostly makes you want to run away. After a few weeks of this routine, you do notice a change. You are, without question, sleeping. But it is not the gentle, restorative slumber you longed for. It is the sleep of utter depletion. After being woken at dawn, force-fed water, starved of familiar comforts, walked for miles, and then systematically frozen, boiled, and battered, you collapse into your bed each night out of sheer, bone-deep exhaustion. You don't drift off. You pass out. Historians still argue whether the occasional successes of the water cure were due to the therapeutic properties of water itself, or if they were the result of removing patients from their stressful urban environments and enforcing a strict regimen of regular exercise, plain diet, and early nights, a lifestyle change that would benefit almost anyone. You feel scoured, inside and out. The cure has worked, in a technical sense, but it has achieved sleep by declaring total war on your body. There is no peace in it. You decide to leave the Grand Sanatorium, feeling cleaner, yes, but also hollowed out. The fundamental problem, the racing mind in the quiet of the night, remains unsolved. You've tackled your energy and your substance. Perhaps the problem is simpler. Perhaps it is merely your environment. Your own bed. Your own room. You return home from the hydropathic establishment feeling scoured and raw, your faith in systemic cures washed away by weeks of icy torrents. The journey back to London is a retreat. As you settle into your own familiar bedroom, the failure of the water cure brings a strange kind of clarity. You've tried to fix your energy with electricity, and your substance with water. Perhaps the problem is more fundamental, yet simpler. It is the very air you breathe. Your bedroom, which you once saw as a sanctuary, now appears to you as a trap. A sealed box where the air grows stale and poisonous over the long hours of the night. This fear latches onto your mind because it feels so perfectly scientific. You live in an age obsessed with ventilation. Florence Nightingale, the hero of the Crimea, preaches the gospel of fresh air, declaring that hospitals should be built to let the wind blow through them. The prevailing miasma theory teaches that invisible clouds of bad air, rising from decay and filth, carry diseases like cholera and typhus. You look at your heavy velvet curtains, your windows sealed tight against the din of the city, the thick canopy over your four-poster bed, and you see it clearly. You have been marinating for 8 hours a night in your own, vitiated effluvia. You are slowly being poisoned by your own breath. This, you conclude with a surge of conviction, is the true source of your sleeplessness. The challenge, of course, is how to introduce fresh air without creating a chilling draft, a mortal enemy to the Victorian Constitution, or letting in the foul smells and relentless noise of the street. You can't just throw open a window. The solution must be more refined, more scientific. Your research leads you to a marvel of domestic hygiene advertised in the back pages of a journal on modern living, Dr. Arnott's patent ventilating bedstead. It is described as a machine for sleeping in, and you know, with the certainty of the truly desperate, that you must have one. The bedstead that arrives is a magnificent, complicated construction of iron and brass. It's less a piece of furniture and more a domestic engine. The traditional solid mattress base is replaced by a fine mesh of woven wire. The grand, hollow posts of the bed are not merely decorative, they are part of a sophisticated convection system. One set of posts has vents near the floor, designed to draw in the cooler, supposedly fresher air, while the other set has vents near the top, to expel the warm, vitiated air you exhale. The true genius, however, is the optional clockwork bellows fitted discreetly beneath the bed. Before retiring, you are to wind a large crank, and for the next several hours, the bellows will gently, silently pump, ensuring a constant, imperceptible circulation of air around your sleeping form. The obsession with moving air was everywhere. It wasn't just beds. You've seen advertisements for ventilating hats, with cunning little vents hidden in the top hat's design, and complex window mechanisms with baffles and filters. But this bed is the pinnacle of the art. It's a personal atmospheric system. That night, you perform the new ritual with solemn care. You wind the bellows crank until it is tight. You smooth the covers over the special porous horsehair mattress. You climb in, feeling like an aeronaut about to embark on a journey. You are not merely going to sleep, you are engaging in a scientific process. You lie back and listen. At first, there is nothing. Then you can just make out the faintest, gentlest whoosh as the bellows push air through the vents. It's a sound you can feel more than hear. You imagine the invisible currents at work, a miniature weather system dedicated entirely to your well-being. The stale, carbon-laden air is being drawn away from your mouth, up the hollow posts, and away. Fresh, life-giving oxygen is being wafted over your face. For the first night, the placebo effect is intoxicating. You feel cleaner, safer, and profoundly modern. You drift off to sleep with a smug smile, a captain of industry at rest in his personal air-purifying machine. It's a joke, really. After all this searching, the solution was just a bit of a breeze. But the triumph is short-lived. A few nights later, the clockwork mechanism develops a faint, rhythmic squeak. Squeak. Whoosh. Squeak. Whoosh. It's a tiny, maddening sound that drills directly into your consciousness, a mechanical heartbeat counting out the seconds you are not asleep. You try to ignore it, but it's impossible. The machine designed to bring you peace has become a new form of torture. Then a new anxiety takes root. Where is the fresh air actually coming from? The intake vents are only 6 inches from the floor. You picture the bellows puffing not pure country air, but little clouds of dust, stray carpet fibers, and whatever else lurks under your bed. Historians still argue whether the elaborate domestic inventions of the era, like the ventilating bed, provided any real physiological benefit, or if their primary function was psychological, giving the user a sense of control over an increasingly complex and frightening invisible world of germs and miasmas. For you, the sense of control has vanished, replaced by a sense of mechanical farce. You try the bed without the bellows, relying on natural convection. But the silence is worse. You lie there, hyper-aware of the stillness, convinced the system isn't working at all and you're suffocating by degrees. The ventilating bed, this masterpiece of hygienic design, is a failure. It has only traded one set of anxieties for another. You lie there, in your expensive, squeaking, dust-pumping machine, and realize the problem isn't the air in the room. You've been thinking too broadly. The problem is smaller, more specific. It's the source of the thoughts themselves. Your brain. The hydrotherapist said you were impure. Dr. Granville said your nerves were torpid, but you know the original diagnosis was the right one. Your brain is simply too hot. It needs to be cooled. Directly. The failure of the magnificent air-pumping bedstead has not brought despair, but a clarifying, razor-sharp focus. You have been treating the symptoms, the environment, the generalities. You must now attack the root of the problem, the very engine of your sleeplessness. It's not the air in the room, it's the heat in your head. Your brain, the most delicate and important of all your organs, is overworked. All that thinking, worrying, and calculating, the necessary burdens of a man in this modern age, has drawn too much blood to your head. It is in a state of cerebral hyperemia, a dangerous congestion that produces this nightly turmoil. The diagnosis feels profoundly, intuitively correct. Your brain is a furnace of frantic thought, and you simply need to cool it down. Of course, a simple wet cloth won't do. A temporary compress is the solution of a child or a peasant. You require a proper apparatus, a device built on scientific principles that can provide a steady, regulated, and prolonged cooling effect. Your research, conducted in the hushed aisles of a medical library, leads you to designs for therapeutic cold application systems. The theory is sound and supported by respected physicians. The concept of using targeted cold as a cerebral sedative is at the forefront of modern neurology. You commission a device to be made, a specialized tool for this most delicate of tasks. What arrives is a bizarre-looking piece of equipment, a sort of advanced, medical-grade swimming cap. It's made of India rubber and lined with a dizzying network of tiny, flexible tubes. Two larger tubes emerge from the back of the cap. The instructions are precise. You are to place a large jug or reservoir of iced water on your bedside table. The intake tube goes into this reservoir. The outflow tube is to be placed in a waste bucket on the floor. It's a simple gravity siphon system. The icy water will circulate through the cap, drawing the pathological heat from your head, and then drain away, carrying the affliction with it. You are, in effect, creating a personal cooling system for your own overheated mind. The application of such a device wasn't entirely novel. A brilliant physician, Dr. James Arnott, had already pioneered a similar current apparatus that used circulating salt water, cooled to freezing, as a local anesthetic for surgery. He could numb a patch of skin so effectively that minor operations could be performed without pain. So, the idea of taming the body with targeted cold was very real. You, however, are not numbing a limb for an incision. You are trying to numb your very consciousness into submission. That night, you prepare for bed as if for a complex scientific experiment. You fill the reservoir with water and add a block of ice from the icebox. You fit the clammy, strangely heavy cap onto your head, smoothing it over your skull. You arrange the tubes, check for kinks, and take a deep breath. It feels utterly ridiculous. You look like you're about to be subjected to some strange phrenological experiment, or perhaps you're a new type of deep-sea diver, preparing to explore the crushing depths of your own pillows. With a final sigh of resolve, you open the small valve on the intake tube. The sensation is immediate and shocking. An intense, piercing cold floods the network of tubes and radiates across your entire scalp. It's a breathtaking cold that makes you gasp. For the first few minutes, it's all you can focus on. The sheer, overwhelming physical sensation silences the frantic chatter in your mind. You can't worry about yesterday's accounts when your head feels like it's being flash frozen. You imagine the heat being drawn out, the congested blood vessels shrinking, the furious pace of your thoughts slowing to a thick, slushy crawl. It is, for a moment, blissful. The cure is so direct, so logical. But as the minutes tick by, the reality of the contraption undermines the theory. The cap is tight and uncomfortable. The constant, penetrating cold begins to feel less like a cure and more like a punishment. You become aware of a faint dripping sound, the outflow tube draining into the bucket, each drop a tiny hammer blow against the silence. Then, a new horror. A small leak develops near your ear, and a slow, icy trickle of water begins to snake its way down your neck and under your collar. The very apparatus meant to bring peace has introduced a new, maddening distraction. Historians still argue whether the Victorian focus on physical remedies for mental distress, like brain cooling, represented a naive, mechanistic view of the mind, or a sophisticated, if flawed, early understanding of the profound connection between physical sensation and psychological state. You, with a damp nightshirt and a semi-frozen scalp, are beginning to lean toward naive and mechanistic. The final insult comes when the ice in the reservoir finally melts. The water circulating through the cap becomes merely cool, then tepid. The therapeutic effect vanishes completely, leaving you with a damp head, a full bucket of waste water, and the same old racing thoughts, which now return with a vengeance, as if eager to make up for lost time. You tear the useless cap from your head and fling it onto the chair beside your bed. The mechanical approach has failed. The vibrating chair, the ventilating bed, and now this absurd head refrigerator. You've been trying to fix a biological problem with the tools of an engineer. Perhaps the entire premise is wrong. Perhaps the solution isn't mechanical at all. Perhaps it's chemical. You don't need a machine. You need a potion. A tonic, a trip to the chemist. Been beaten back from the front lines of mechanical invention. The vibrating chairs, the ventilating beds, the absurd brain coolers, all sit like monuments to your failed campaign against the night. Defeated, you retreat from the world of engineers and turn towards a different kind of practitioner, the chemist. His domain is not one of iron and steam, but of powders and potions. The solution, you've decided, is not to be found in a machine, but in a bottle. You push open the door to the local chemist's shop, a bell announcing your arrival. The air inside is thick with the smells of strange herbs, sweet syrups, and sharp, clean chemicals. Sunlight streams through the large, colored carboys of liquid in the window, painting the dark wood interior in jewel tones of red and green. Behind the counter stands the chemist, a man who radiates a quiet, serious authority. You explain your malady, the sleeplessness, the frayed nerves, the exhaustion. He listens with a practiced, sympathetic nod. He does not scoff. He does not suggest a new type of bed. He simply turns to the shelves behind him. These shelves are a library of promises. This is the golden age of patent medicines, and you are looking at a gallery of hope in liquid and pill form. The bottles are works of art, with ornate labels, dramatic names, and lists of ailments they purport to cure. You see Hamlin's Wizard Oil, promising to relieve everything from a cough to cancer. You see Ayer's Sarsaparilla, a blood purifier that could supposedly cure scrofula, ringworm, and general debility. The sheer audacity of the claims is almost comforting. Surely one of these miracle cures can handle a simple case of insomnia. The chemist selects a bottle for you. A gentle nerve tonic, he says, to soothe the overwrought mind. The label on the dark glass bottle reads, Mrs. Winslow's Soothing Syrup. It is advertised as a perfectly harmless and pleasant remedy for fretful children and weary adults alike, promising natural, refreshing sleep. You purchase it without hesitation. That night, you follow the instructions, taking a tablespoonful in a glass of water. The taste is cloyingly sweet, with a bitter undertone and a distinct, warming sensation as it travels down your throat. The warmth spreads through your chest, and a pleasant, fuzzy-edged feeling begins to settle over you. The sharp corners of your anxieties seem to soften. It is, you must admit, a rather agreeable sensation, not unlike a strong glass of port. You do feel drowsy, and for the first time in a long while, you drift off to sleep with relative ease. What the label doesn't say, of course, is that the primary active ingredients are alcohol and a substantial dose of morphine sulfate. This was the great, treacherous secret of the patent medicine industry. These restoratives and tonics were largely unregulated concoctions of potent narcotics. The mainstream fact of your era is that you could walk into any chemist and buy, over-the-counter, preparations containing opium, morphine, cannabis, and even cocaine, all marketed as perfectly safe family remedies. After a few nights, the gentle, fuzzy feeling from Mrs. Winslow's syrup isn't quite enough. The effect seems to be wearing off. You return to the chemist and explain that your case is proving stubborn. He nods again, this time with a more knowing look. He reaches under the counter and produces a much smaller, simpler bottle. It is labeled simply laudanum. He carefully explains that this is a much more potent medicine, to be administered by the drop, not the spoonful. He sells it to you with no more paperwork than would be required for a bar of soap. You take the small bottle home with a sense of both trepidation and profound excitement. This feels like the ultimate weapon. That night, you measure out 5 drops into your water, your hand trembling slightly. The effect is nothing like the gentle buzz of the syrup. A warm, languid wave washes over you, starting in your stomach and spreading to every limb. It is not mere drowsiness, it is a complete dissolution of worry. The ledgers, the social anxieties, the fears for your health, they don't just quiet down, they cease to exist. The world becomes a soft, hazy, benevolent place. You feel a profound sense of well-being, a floating peace you haven't felt in years. Sleep comes not as a surrender, but as a gentle, welcome tide. It worked. The next night, you take it again. Perhaps 6 drops, just to be certain of that blissful peace. It works again. You have found your cure. Or so you think. Historians still argue whether the average Victorian user of laudanum-laced syrups fully understood the addictive nature of their medicine, or if the drug's widespread availability and endorsement by medical professionals created a culture of innocent addiction, where dependence was seen as a symptom of the original ailment rather than the cure. Soon, you find you cannot face the prospect of night without the little bottle. The memory of your raw, unaided consciousness is too terrifying. The thought of lying in bed without the chemical blanket of the opium sends a jolt of panic through you. You need it. The sleep it brings is now heavy, dreamless, and you wake feeling foggy and disoriented, with a dull headache and a dry mouth. But it is still sleep. The cure has become a grim necessity. You are no longer a patient seeking relief, you are a jailer, and your own mind is the prisoner, requiring a nightly dose of poison to be kept in its cell. One evening, as you measure the drops, you look at your reflection in the darkened window pane and realize with a chilling clarity that this path leads not to rest, but to ruin. This is not a cure. It is a chemical cage. You pour the rest of the bottle down the sink, your heart pounding. You must escape. You must turn away from these dangerous, artificial solutions and seek health in something simple, wholesome, and natural. The problem isn't your brain or your nerves. It's what you're putting into your body. It's your diet. Reeling from your narrow escape from the chemical abyss of laudanum, you embrace a new philosophy with the zeal of a convert. The enemy is not external, nor is it purely in your mind. It is in your stomach. You have been poisoning yourself, not with opiates, but with rich gravies, heavy puddings, and late-night glasses of port. The new gospel is one of digestive harmony. Your sleeplessness, you are now convinced, is merely a symptom of dyspepsia. A turbulent stomach creates a turbulent mind. To find peace in the bedroom, you must first declare peace in the dining room. This is a path well trodden by the health conscious of your era. Books and pamphlets on invalid cookery are immensely popular. The mainstream medical advice of the day is clear. For anyone with a nervous disposition, the diet must be simple, bland, and easily digestible. The stomach, that great engine of the body, must not be overtaxed at night, so that the body's vital energy can be devoted to repairing the brain. You immediately summon your cook and issue a series of draconian new edicts. The evening meal is to be transformed from a pleasure into a prescription. Gone are the roasted joints of beef, the savory pies, the sharp cheeses. Supper is now a sad, Spartan affair. You find yourself sitting down to a bowl of thin, watery gruel, or perhaps a single, lightly poached egg with a slice of dry toast. It is a regimen of beige, tasteless sustenance. Your first specific remedy is the simplest of all, highly recommended by health reformers: a large glass of plain hot water before bed. The theory is that it gently washes the stomach lining, clearing away any lingering undigested food and creating a soothing, internal warmth. The reality is that you are forcing yourself to drink a mug of unpleasantly hot, flavorless water that makes you feel slightly nauseated. But you persist, convinced of its purifying power. When hot water alone fails, you advance to a more targeted botanical cure. Celery is hailed as a wonder vegetable for the nerves. You read that it contains unique mineral salts that act as a natural sedative. You are not simply to eat it raw, that would be too simple. Instead, your cook is instructed to prepare a celery tonic, boiling the vegetable down into a savory, slightly bitter tea. You sit by the fire in the evening, sipping this strange, greenish broth, trying to convince yourself that it tastes of tranquility. A friend also suggests the power of lettuce, which contains a substance called lactucarium, often referred to as lettuce opium, for its mild sedative qualities. The more extreme advice, which you thankfully ignore, involves consuming a large raw onion before bed, a cure that would likely guarantee you sleep alone, if nothing else. You follow your new, austere diet with monastic devotion. You go to bed feeling virtuous, clean, and profoundly, achingly hungry. The gnawing emptiness in your stomach becomes a new and powerful distraction. Instead of being kept awake by the gurgles of a full stomach, you are tormented by the loud rumbles of an empty one. You lie in bed, your mind, which should be calm, instead composing elaborate, fantastical menus. You can almost smell a phantom steak and kidney pie. The great irony, you reflect, is that every proposed cure for your sleeplessness seems to require the systematic removal of every small pleasure from your life. First the wine, then the coffee, and now, the simple satisfaction of a good meal. Historians still argue whether the Victorian obsession with bland, invalid diets was a genuine health movement or a form of social performance, a way for the middle and upper classes to display their refinement and sensitivity by demonstrating that their delicate systems could not handle the robust, common foods of the working class. As you lie there, your stomach rumbling like distant thunder, it feels less like a display of refinement and more like a form of self-inflicted punishment. You try to interpret the hunger pangs as your body resetting itself, but the self-deception is wearing thin. The breaking point comes one Thursday night. Your supper was a particularly dispiriting bowl of arrowroot gruel. As you trudge upstairs, the rich, savory scent of your servant's dinner, roast mutton and onions, wafts up from the kitchen. It is an aroma of pure, unadulterated joy, and it is more than you can bear. On a sudden impulse, you creep down the darkened staircase to the larder. There, gleaming under the gaslight, is a cold pork pie. You devour it, standing right there in the cold pantry, like a common thief. You climb back into bed, filled with guilt and pastry, convinced you are now doomed to a night of digestive turmoil and wide-eyed misery. Instead, you fall into the deepest, most profound sleep you have had in months. It is the heavy, dreamless slumber of a body that has finally been given what it needs. You wake in the morning feeling not groggy, but rested. The dietary cure, you realize, is a complete fraud. A constantly empty stomach is just as much an enemy to sleep as a dangerously full one. You have been starving yourself for nothing. The frustration is immense. You have treated your chemistry and your diet, all to no avail. The problem isn't what you put into yourself. It must be something more primal. You think back to infancy, to the one truly effortless sleep you ever knew. What was the secret then? It was the gentle, swaying motion of the cradle. You don't need to be shocked, cooled, or starved. You need to be rocked. The great pork pie epiphany of a few nights ago has shifted your entire philosophy. You have rejected the harsh interventions of chemistry and the punishing austerity of dietary science. A new, simpler truth has emerged, one rooted in the hazy memories of infancy. The secret to sleep is not a substance or a food, but emotion. The gentle, timeless, lulling sway of the cradle. Your problem is not that you are impure or overheated, but simply that you are still. You don't need a cure. You need a cradle, one built for a man of means and anxieties. You need to be rocked. And so, you return to the world of mechanics, but with a new perspective. You are not seeking a violent, juddering machine to shock your nerves into submission. You are seeking a gentle, rhythmic engine of tranquility. A simple rocking bed will not suffice. It would require the constant labor of a servant, and the thought of someone standing in your darkened room, pushing your bed back and forth all night, is far too unsettling. No, the device must be automatic. A machine of perpetual slumber. Your search through catalogs of modern inventions leads you to the perfect solution. The somno-kinetic bedstead, advertised as a clockwork cradle for the modern adult. The bed is an engineering marvel. It is a handsome brass and iron bedstead, but instead of resting on rigid legs, the entire frame is mounted on a gently curved rocker base. The true genius lies hidden in the ornate ironwork beneath the mattress. There, a heavy iron weight is suspended, connected to a complex clockwork mechanism of gears and escapements, not unlike the inner workings of a grandfather clock. The ritual is wonderfully simple. Before retiring, you turn a large crank, slowly winching the heavy weight to its highest point. After climbing into bed, you release a small lever. As the weight begins its slow, hours-long descent, the stored potential energy is translated into a slow, silent, steady rocking motion. This was the dream of many a Victorian inventor, the application of clockwork and gravity to create seemingly perpetual motion. While true perpetual motion was a scientific fantasy, the idea of long-running, self-operating machines was a profound obsession. You've seen toys like Dr. Gaham's perpetual motion top, which could spin for hours, to the delight of drawing rooms everywhere. Your bed is this same principle, scaled up and applied to the noble cause of slumber. It is, you think with a surge of pride, the most elegant solution imaginable. You perform the inaugural winding, the gears clicking satisfyingly into place. You settle onto the mattress, release the lever, and hold your breath. For a moment, nothing. Then, you feel it. A slow, deep, rhythmic sway begins, a silent, oceanic tilting from side to side. It is nothing like the jarring shudder of Dr. Granville's chair. This is a profound, primal rhythm, a motion that seems to resonate with the very fluid in your bones. The gentle momentum is hypnotic. The anxieties that normally race through your mind find it difficult to gain a foothold. It's hard to worry about social obligations when your entire world is gently, reliably, and endlessly in motion. It's the most relaxed you have felt in years. You have done it. You have built a better cradle. For a week, it is a miracle. You wind your bed, you lie down, and you drift away on a gentle, mechanical tide. You sleep soundly and wake refreshed. The somnokinetic bed is a resounding success. You have finally conquered insomnia. Historians still argue whether the perceived benefits of rhythmic therapies, from rocking beds to the monotonous hum of early electrical devices, were due to their specific physiological effects or simply to the power of monotonous sensory input to override the brain's chaotic internal monologue, effectively boring the user to sleep. You don't care about the theory. You only know that it works. The flaw, when it appears, is subtle and cruel. One night, you are so tired you forget to wind the mechanism fully. Around 3 in the morning, the weight reaches the bottom of its track. The rocking stops. The sudden stillness is what wakes you. The abrupt absence of motion is as jarring and alarming as a gunshot. Your body has become so perfectly attuned to the rhythm that its cessation feels like a profound failure, a mechanical death. The silence you once craved now feels alien and hostile. A few weeks later, while visiting a relative, you are forced to sleep in a normal, stationary bed. It is an instrument of torture. It feels rigid, dead, like a stone slab. You toss and turn all night, desperately craving the familiar sway. The terrible truth dawns on you. The bed hasn't cured you. It has merely transferred your dependency. You have not learned how to fall asleep. You have only learned how to fall asleep while in motion. You have not solved your problem. You have simply put it on rockers. It is a profound and disheartening failure. Even this, the gentlest and most effective of all the contraptions, is just another crutch. You've tried to fix your body from the outside with machines, and from the inside with chemicals and diets. All have failed. The problem, you finally realize, must not be in your body at all. The battleground is not physical. It is in the mind itself. You don't need to rock your body. You need to calm your consciousness. You need to find someone who can command the mind, someone who can reach into the chaos and impose order. You need a mesmerist. You have abandoned the physical realm. The engineers with their gears, the chemists with their opiates, the dietitians with their celery tea. They have all failed you. Their methods are crude, attacking the body as if it were a faulty machine or an impure vessel. The failure of the rocking bed, the gentlest machine of all, was the final lesson. The problem is not in your flesh, your blood, or your bones. It is in the intangible, unconquerable fortress of your own consciousness. The battle must be fought on this new, terrifying ground. You don't need a physician. You need a psychologist of the unseen, a master of the mind. You need a mesmerist. The world of mesmerism, or animal magnetism, is a shadowy, controversial one. It is not practiced in the bright, sterile consulting rooms of Harley Street. It exists in dimly lit parlors, in public halls as a form of shocking entertainment, and in the hushed conversations of those inclined toward the spiritual and the strange. Mainstream science scoffs at it, but you are beyond the help of mainstream science. You find your man through a discreet newspaper advertisement promising relief from nervous afflictions through pathetism. He calls himself Professor Alistair Blackwood, a name that sounds both academic and vaguely sinister. His rooms are not a clinic, but a theater. The windows are covered with heavy velvet drapes, blocking out the afternoon sun. The air is close, scented with sandalwood incense. Instead of medical charts, the walls are adorned with astrological maps and strange diagrams of the human body crisscrossed with lines of energy. Professor Blackwood himself is a tall man with a carefully trimmed beard and an intense, unblinking gaze. He looks less like a doctor and more like the villain from a penny dreadful novel, a Svengali for the sleepless. He explains his science in a low, confident voice. He speaks of an invisible fluid, the animal magnetism, that flows from the stars, through him, and into you. Your sleeplessness, he says, is a congestion of this fluid, a whirlpool of agitated energy in your brain caused by the stresses of modern life. He, a man with a powerful natural magnetism, can soothe this vortex. He can, with the power of his will and the passes of his hands, restore the harmonious flow of your vital fluids. You are deeply skeptical, but also deeply desperate, and the sheer theatricality of it all is strangely compelling. You have seen stage mesmerists before, drawing volunteers from an audience and making them do ridiculous things, crowing like a rooster, or finding themselves unable to lift a hat from their head. You had dismissed it as trickery, a collaboration between the showman and a suggestible fool. Now, you are that fool. You sit in a plush armchair while the professor tells you to fix your gaze upon a multifaceted crystal that dangles from a chain. His voice becomes a monotonous, rhythmic drone. You are feeling calm. Your limbs are growing heavy. The worries of the day are drifting away like clouds. He begins to make slow, deliberate passes with his hands, starting above your head and moving down your body, never quite touching you. You feel a strange tingling on your skin as he does so. You are fighting him in your mind, trying to hold on to your rational, skeptical self, but his voice is a relentless, soothing tide. Your eyelids feel impossibly heavy. The scent of sandalwood seems to grow stronger. The room around you fades to a dark, fuzzy blur, and the professor's voice becomes the only reality. He is telling you that you are now in a state of perfect repose, that your mind is open and receptive. He tells you that tonight, the moment your head touches the pillow, you will sink instantly into a deep, dreamless, restorative sleep. The session ends with a sharp snap of his fingers. Your eyes fly open. You feel dazed, light, and strangely peaceful. The crushing weight of your anxiety has been lifted. You feel calm, but also unsettled, as if a stranger has been rearranging the furniture inside your head. You pay the professor's fee and leave, stumbling out into the bright, noisy street which now seems startlingly real. That night, you go to bed with a sense of profound cynicism. It was all suggestion and theater, you tell yourself. But as your head touches the pillow, the professor's command, buried deep in your subconscious, asserts itself. Your consciousness simply switches off. You are asleep before you can even register your own surprise. For the first time, the cure is instant and total. It is a miracle. For 3 nights, the miracle holds. The post-hypnotic suggestion works perfectly. But then, the power begins to fade. On the 4th night, you lie awake for a few minutes before sleep comes. On the 5th night, an hour. The old anxieties, the familiar demons, are creeping back from the edges of your mind where the mesmerist had banished them. You realize with a sinking heart that this is not a permanent cure. It is a temporary command, and its authority is waning. You will have to go back for another session, and another. You have not gained mastery over your own mind. You have merely surrendered it to the will of Professor Blackwood. Historians still argue whether the phenomena of mesmerism represented a genuine altered state of consciousness, or if it was simply a powerful form of role-playing, where suggestible individuals, under social pressure, acted out the part expected of them by the charismatic practitioner. For you, the result is the same. You have traded a dependence on a rocking bed for a dependence on a man with a hypnotic gaze. This realization is deeply unnerving. If your mind is so porous, so easily influenced by another's will, could it not also be influenced by other, more subtle things? If a man can plant a command in your brain, what about the silent, constant commands of your own environment? You start to look around your bedroom with a new, paranoid eye. What are you staring at for hours each night before you fall asleep, or while you toss and turn? The wall, the endlessly repeating, intricate patterns of the wallpaper. What secret, maddening messages might they be whispering to your suggestible, unguarded mind? Experience with the mesmerist has left you deeply unsettled. It was not his power that frightened you, but your own weakness. The realization that your will is so porous, so susceptible to the commands of another, has planted a new and insidious seed of doubt in your mind. If a man can so easily influence your consciousness, what of the more subtle, persistent influences that surround you every day? You begin to look at your own familiar bedroom not as a sanctuary, but as a space of silent, constant suggestion. Your gaze falls upon the walls, and for the first time, you truly see your wallpaper. Before, it was just a backdrop, a respectable floral pattern of looping vines and cheerful-looking blossoms. Now, in your heightened state of psychological suspicion, it is a source of torment. As you lie in bed, you find your eyes tracing the endlessly repeating patterns, following the swirling acanthus leaves as they twist and intertwine. There is no escape, no focal point, no place for the eye to rest. You start to see faces in the clusters of flowers, leering gargoyles in the shadows. The pattern is a visual representation of your own mind, a chaotic, looping, inescapable trap. The aesthetic movement, championed by men like William Morris, taught that beautiful, well-designed surroundings were essential for a healthy soul. It stands to reason, then, that a poorly designed, visually chaotic environment could be a poison to the mind. This new anxiety is soon compounded by a far more concrete and terrifying fear. You read a pamphlet, a piece of crusading journalism, about a hidden danger lurking in the modern home: arsenic. Specifically, it is found in the brilliant green pigments used in popular wallpapers. The most beautiful and vibrant shade, known as Scheele's green, is made with copper arsenite. The article describes how, in damp or aging homes, microscopic particles of this poison can flake off, becoming an invisible dust in the air, a toxic vapor that is inhaled day after day, night after night. The symptoms of this slow, chronic poisoning are listed in terrifying detail: headaches, fatigue, depression, and a state of profound nervous irritability. It's a perfect description of your own condition. Suddenly, everything makes sense. You have been sleeping in a poison chamber. This single, terrifying idea eclipses all previous theories. It wasn't your nerves, your diet, or your brain. You were simply being poisoned by your own decor. The Victorian home, you learn, was a treasure trove of toxins. Arsenic was not just in wallpaper, but in paint, the dyes for fabrics and carpets, the wax of candles, and even used as a coloring agent in children's sweets. Your comfortable, modern home is, in fact, a cleverly disguised chemical arsenal. Your paranoia becomes an obsession. You begin to see the vibrant green in your wallpaper not as a color, but as a threat. Is the air in your bedroom thick with arsenic dust? Is that why the ventilating bed failed? It was just circulating the poison more efficiently? Historians still argue whether the threat of arsenic wallpaper was a widespread public health crisis responsible for countless mystery illnesses, or a sensationalized media panic, with only the most extreme cases of damp and poorly ventilated homes posing a genuine risk. To you, huddled in your bed and staring at the floral pattern, the threat feels entirely, personally real. You scrape a small sample of the paper from behind a heavy wardrobe and, following the pamphlet's instructions, hold it in the flame of a candle. Does it emit a faint, garlic-like smell? You think it does. The proof seems undeniable. The solution is immediate and drastic. The wallpaper must be destroyed. You hire workmen who descend upon your bedroom with buckets and scrapers. The process is a violent, cathartic exorcism. They tear at the paper, peeling it off in long, damp strips. It feels as if a diseased skin is being flayed from the room. The air fills with the smell of wet plaster and old paste. When it is done, the room is stripped bare. The walls are a mottled, wounded-looking expanse of raw plaster. You instruct the painters to use nothing but a plain, sterile, hygienic white distemper. No patterns, no pigments, no poison. That night, you lie in your new, sterile chamber. The room is an echoey, empty cube. The bare walls offer no distraction, no patterns to trap the eye. There are no invisible threats to fear, no secret messages being whispered from the decor. There is only you, the bed, and the profound, unadorned emptiness of the room. It should be calming, it should be the ultimate peace. But you still can't sleep. The silence is deafening. The visual void of the walls forces your gaze inward. With no external chaos to fixate on, your mind turns upon itself with a new and terrifying ferocity. The anxieties, with nothing to cling to, simply swirl in the vacuum. The horrifying realization dawns on you: the poison was never on the walls. It was in you all along. You have stripped away every external variable. You have tried to shock, vibrate, cool, drug, rock, starve, and hypnotize yourself into slumber. You have even redecorated. Every active measure has failed. You have run out of things to do, things to blame. A new, terrifying thought emerges from the despair. What if the only solution is to do nothing? To have all stimulus, all choice, all agency taken away? To be forced, by an authority greater than your own, simply to rest. You have run out of things to blame. The fault is not in your wallpaper, your bed, your diet, or the very air you breathe. In a moment of terrible clarity in your sterile, white room, you realize the fault lies in your own will, your own runaway consciousness. You have failed to control it, so you must now surrender it. In absolute desperation, you seek out the most extreme, most authoritative treatment of the age, a cure that promises to succeed by demanding your total and unconditional surrender, the infamous rest cure, pioneered by the American physician Dr. S. Weir Mitchell. You submit yourself to a private nursing home that specializes in his methods. From the moment you cross the threshold, your life is no longer your own. You are met by a starched, formidable nurse who informs you of the rules. There is no negotiation. Your clothes are taken away and you are put into a simple nightshirt. You are led to a sparse, quiet room, and you are put to bed. You will not leave this bed for 6 to 8 weeks. The theory behind the cure is simple and absolute. Dr. Mitchell believed that nervous exhaustion, your affliction, was a bankruptcy of the body's resources, specifically its stores of fat and blood. The only way to cure this bankruptcy is to eliminate all expenditures and maximize all deposits. Your life is now reduced to this brutal, simple equation. To eliminate expenditure, you are forbidden from any activity. Not just physical activity, but intellectual and emotional activity, too. You are to lie flat on your back. You are not permitted to read, to write, to be read to, or even to receive mail. Visitors are strictly forbidden. You are to be completely isolated from your own life, a living ghost in a quiet room. Your only job is to lie still and cease to be the person you were. The second part of the regimen, maximizing deposits, begins at once. You are to be force-fed. The nurse appears with a large glass of milk, the first of many. You will consume pints of it every day, delivered at rigidly scheduled intervals, even through the night. The meals are rich, heavy, and relentless. Beefsteak, mutton chops, thick soups, and buttered toast are brought to you, and you must eat every bite under the nurse's unblinking gaze. When you protest that you are not hungry, that you feel sick with the sheer volume of food, you are calmly informed that refusal will result in feeding via a tube passed down your throat and into your stomach. The threat is quietly, terrifyingly real. In a strange, ironic twist, some of your old, failed cures reappear, but now as things that are done to you. Every day, a strong-armed masseuse arrives to knead, pummel, and manipulate your inert limbs. This is to keep your muscles from wasting away and to stimulate circulation without you having to expend a single ounce of your own energy. Sometimes, the nurse applies an electrical apparatus to your legs and back, the mild shocks causing your muscles to twitch involuntarily. The electricity you once tried to command is now commanding you. The first few days are almost a relief. The crushing burden of making decisions has been lifted. You have nothing to do but exist. But soon, the reality of the cure descends. The boredom is a physical presence, a thick, suffocating blanket. With no books, no conversation, no view from the window, your mind, denied all external stimulus, turns inward and begins to devour itself. The anxieties you sought to escape are now your only companions, echoing endlessly in the silent chamber of your skull. You are being fattened like a prize pig, your body growing plump while your mind starves. This treatment was most famously prescribed for women. The writer Charlotte Perkins Gilman was driven to the brink of a complete mental collapse by it, later immortalizing the horror of her experience in the story, The Yellow Wallpaper. Historians still argue whether the rest cure was a genuine, if brutal, attempt at therapy or a tool of patriarchal control, designed to punish intellectual, non-conforming women and force them back into a state of passive, domestic dependency. Lying there, being fed milk like an infant, you feel utterly infantilized, your will being systematically dismantled day by day. After 4 weeks, you are not rested. You are a prisoner inside your own fattened body. The cure is a lie. It is not rest, it is a living burial. The sensory deprivation has not brought peace, but a silent, screaming madness. One morning, when the nurse enters with your 10 o'clock milk, you sit up in bed for the first time. The effort makes your head swim. "I am leaving," you announce, your voice a hoarse croak. The nurse is unmoved, but you are resolute. You demand your clothes. You dress yourself, your fingers fumbling with the buttons, your limbs feeling strange and heavy. You walk out of the room, down the hall, and into the sunlight, which feels shockingly bright. You have never felt like more of a failure. And yet, you have learned something profound. You tried to achieve peace by annihilating your own will, and it was the worst torment of all. The cure for your condition does not lie in forced passivity. It does not lie in the hands of an all-powerful authority. The answer, if it exists at all, must be found within your own character, your own nature. What if the flaw isn't your nerves or your diet, but something more fundamental, something you were born with? What if it's written, in the very shape of your head? Your escape from the rest cure is not a triumph, but a retreat into a deeper confusion. You have learned, through the slow torture of forced passivity, that the cure does not lie in the hands of others. But where, then? You have exhausted the world of external remedies and internal potions. A new, terrifying possibility begins to take root. What if the flaw is not something you have acquired, but something you have always been? What if your sleeplessness is not a sickness, but a fundamental part of your character, a defect in your very design? You need a science that can map your innate nature, that can read the blueprint of your soul. You need a phrenologist. Phrenology is the great science of the mind for your age, a revolutionary system that promises to turn the chaos of human character into a readable, empirical map. Its parlors are as common as photographers' studios, its practitioners as confident as any surgeon. You find a highly recommended professor of phrenology in a set of respectable rooms near Bloomsbury. The office is a temple to the science. The walls are lined with charts depicting the human head, sectioned off into dozens of numbered zones. On pedestals sit stark white plaster busts of famous men and infamous criminals, their cranial geographies serving as silent, cautionary tales. The atmosphere is one of sober, meticulous, scientific analysis. The professor, a man with a high, domed forehead of his own, explains the principles laid down by the great Dr. Franz Joseph Gall. The brain, he tells you, is the organ of the mind, but it is not a single entity. It is a federation of some 37 distinct faculties: love, cautiousness, wit, veneration, destructiveness, and so on. The size of each mental organ is a direct measure of its power, and the skull itself molds to the brain beneath. Therefore, by a careful, tactile examination of the bumps and hollows of your head, he can provide a complete and accurate inventory of your character. You sit for the examination, a white smock draped over your shoulders. The professor's hands, surprisingly cool and dry, begin their slow, methodical exploration of your skull. It is an unnervingly intimate process. He prods and presses with his fingertips, occasionally using a pair of calipers, all while murmuring to himself. Ah, yes, the organ of inhabitiveness is quite pronounced, a strong love of home. Amativeness, moderate. Firmness, well-developed, bordering on stubbornness. He works his way across the landscape of your head, from the base of your neck to your temples, providing a running commentary on your soul. Finally, he arrives at the diagnosis for your insomnia. The problem, he declares, is a most unfortunate combination of faculties. He places a finger on a spot above your temple. Your organ of ideality is exceptionally large. This gives you a powerful imagination, a love of the refined and the poetic. But he moves his other hand to a bump further back. Your organ of cautiousness is also dangerously overdeveloped. This is the source of your anxiety, your tendency to fret and worry. He concludes, your active, beautiful imagination is being constantly preyed upon by an equally active sense of anxiety. They are feeding each other, sir, and that is why you cannot rest. For a moment, this feels like a revelation. The diagnosis is so specific, so physical. It's not your fault. It is simply your cranial geography. Phrenology was used for everything. A quirky fact of your time is that employers would ask for a phrenological report before hiring a clerk, and young men would secretly have the head of a prospective fiancée read to ensure her organ of philoprogentiveness, the love of children, was sufficiently developed. Now, this powerful science has been turned on you. The prescription, however, is less concrete. You must, the professor advises, actively work to suppress your ideality and cautiousness by avoiding stimulating novels and worrisome news. Simultaneously, you must exercise your weaker organs. Your organ of hope, he notes with some sadness, is a rather pathetic little hollow. You must consciously practice being more hopeful. You leave with a detailed, handwritten chart of your own head, a map of your innate strengths and failings. But as you walk through the London streets, the initial relief curdles into absurdity. How does one practice hope? How do you consciously suppress an imagination that is physically encoded in the very structure of your brain? The diagnosis is not a path to a cure, but a life sentence. Historians still argue whether the immense popularity of phrenology was due to a genuine belief in its scientific claims or because it offered a comforting, deterministic framework for life, providing simple, physical explanations for complex social and psychological problems in an age of great anxiety and change. For you, this framework feels less like a comfort and more like a cage. You have reached the end of respectable science. You have consulted physicians, mesmerists, and now a phrenologist. You have tried every major cure the era has to offer. The mainstream has failed you. The fringes have failed you. Your despair is now so profound that you are willing to explore the truly ridiculous, the forgotten patents and last-ditch inventions of inventors who were likely as sleepless and desperate as you are now. You are ready to enter the wilderness of the truly bizarre. You have exhausted the grand theories of medicine and the sweeping philosophies of the mind. All that is left is the wilderness, the dusty back shelves of the patent office where the truly desperate inventions reside. You are no longer seeking a cure, merely a distraction. You have become a connoisseur of contraptions, a collector of lost causes. Your bedroom, once a place of torment, is now a museum of bizarre and elaborate failures. Your first acquisition in this final, desperate phase is a device called the somniscopic mask. The theory is one of image therapy, that the last image your eyes see before sleep will dictate the character of your dreams. The mask is a handsome affair of black velvet, padded with silk, which blocks out all light. But on the inside, sewn directly over the eyepieces, are two exquisite, hand-painted miniatures on ivory. One depicts a placid country scene, with fluffy sheep grazing on a green hill. The other is a tranquil seascape at dusk. The instructions bid you to stare intently at these images for 5 minutes before sleep, then to close your eyes, trapping the peaceful scene in your mind. You try it, dutifully staring at the tiny, idyllic worlds. The result is not a mind filled with placid sheep, but a splitting headache from the eye strain. When you close your eyes, the only images are the swirling, amoeba-like phosphenes of overtired retinas. Next, you acquire an oral soporific. If calming the eyes fails, perhaps you can tame the ears. The theory is that the unpredictable noises of the city keep the mind on alert. The solution is a constant, monotonous sound to mask the outside world and lull the brain. The device is a set of padded ear coverings on a headband, but inside one of the shells is a tiny clockwork motor. When wound, it produces a gentle, rhythmic noise. You can choose between a soft, metronomic ticking, or a whirring sound meant to simulate the buzzing of bees, or even a simulation of gentle rainfall, produced by tiny lead beads falling on a stretched membrane. It's a Victorian white noise machine. You strap the device to your head and wind it up. It does, admittedly, drown out the sound of a distant carriage. But it replaces it with a relentless tick-tick-tick directly into your ear canal. You find yourself listening to it, waiting for the moment the clockwork will inevitably wind down, the silence then feeling twice as loud. It's just trading one auditory prison for another. Your final and most terrifying purchase is a respiratory regulator. This device is born from a simple observation: sleeping people breathe slowly and regularly. The inventor's leap of logic was to assume that if you could force your breathing into this pattern, sleep would be compelled to follow. The apparatus is a nightmare of leather and rubber. A mask fits tightly over your nose and mouth, connected by a tube to a small, hand-pumped bellows on your bedside table. As you slowly pump the bellows, it creates a gentle pressure and suction in the mask, intended to guide your inhalations and exhalations. It is, in essence, a hand-cranked ventilator. The experience is claustrophobic and deeply unnerving. Your body's most automatic, unconscious rhythm is now being dictated by a machine you are operating with your own hand. Your lungs rebel. Instead of relaxing into the rhythm, you find yourself fighting it, taking panicked breaths out of sync with the pump. It feels like a very elaborate and scientific method of suffocating yourself. You sit on the edge of your bed, surrounded by this pathetic arsenal of failed technology. The painted mask, the ticking ear covers, the horrifying breathing harness. They are the last, desperate gasps of an age that believed any problem, no matter how intimate or psychological, could be solved with a clever arrangement of gears, levers, and rubber tubing. Historians still argue whether the Victorian obsession with inventing mechanical solutions for every human problem, from sleeplessness to grief, was a sign of optimistic faith in progress or a deep-seated anxiety about the unreliability of the human body and mind, which they sought to regulate and control. To you, it all just looks like junk. There is nothing left. No more doctors to see, no more pseudosciences to explore, no more bizarre contraptions to buy. You have tried to vibrate, electrify, freeze, boil, ventilate, cool, drug, rock, starve, hypnotize, analyze, and mechanize yourself into a state of rest. Every attempt, every cure, every machine has failed. You are utterly and completely defeated. You sit there in the silence of your room, the quest finally, truly over. And in that absolute, profound stillness, after the last machine has been switched off, something new begins to stir. It is not hope. It is not even resignation. It is just quiet. You are sitting on the edge of your bed in the quiet aftermath of a long and fruitless war. Your enemies, the bizarre contraptions and foolish potions, lie scattered about the room, defeated. The somnoscopic mask with its placid sheep, the oral soporific with its silent clockwork, the terrifying respiratory regulator. They are monuments to your magnificent failure. Every path has been explored. Every theory has been tested and found wanting. There is nowhere left to go, nothing left to try. The frantic, desperate quest for sleep is, at long last, over. You have been utterly and comprehensively vanquished. And in the profound silence of this defeat, something strange begins to happen. You lie back on your pillow, not with a strategy or a technique, but simply because you are tired. For the first time in what feels like a lifetime, you are not trying to sleep. You are not monitoring your breathing, analyzing your thoughts, or listening for the telltale squeak of a machine. The fight is over. You have surrendered. The sounds of the city continue their nightly rhythm. A distant dog barks. The church clock chimes the hour. The watchman calls out that all is well. Before, these sounds were intrusions, enemies to be defeated with earplugs or ticking machines. Now, with the battle over, they are simply sounds. They exist outside of you, a part of the world's own gentle breathing, and they ask nothing of you. The shadows cast by the gaslight on the far wall are no longer menacing shapes. They are just soft, shifting patterns of darkness. You feel the weight of the blanket on your body, the coolness of the linen sheet against your skin, not as irritants, but as simple, neutral facts. You remember an old wives' tale, a folk remedy your own nursemaid might have told you, to count sheep jumping over a stile. It's a remedy so simple, so rustic, it seems absurd compared to the scientific complexity of brain coolers and electric belts you have employed. But now, you understand its wisdom. The point of the sheep is not to be a cure, but to be a bore. The task is so gentle, so repetitive, so devoid of drama or anxiety, that the mind, given nothing else to do, simply lets go. Your own quest has been the very opposite of counting sheep. It has been a frantic, terrified, high-stakes hunt. The great, sad, historical fact you have just discovered for yourself is that the struggle to sleep is often the very thing that keeps you awake. Your entire journey, from the vibrating chair to the phrenologist's chart, was based on the premise that your sleeplessness was a disease to be attacked. But what if it was never a disease at all? What if it was just you? Historians still argue whether the Victorian epidemic of insomnia was a true neurological phenomenon born of industrial stress, or a cultural one, a narrative of suffering that the age, with its love for melodrama and complex solutions, told itself. Lying here, in the rubble of your own complex solutions, you suspect the answer is the latter. You were simply playing the part that the era had written for you, the overwrought, sleepless man in need of a marvelous cure. And now that the play is over, the audience has gone home, and the stage is dark, you feel a heaviness gathering in your limbs. A pleasant, weighty languor. Your thoughts, once so sharp and frantic, are becoming soft around the edges, like charcoal drawings blurred by a careless thumb. The anxiety has not been conquered, it has simply been forgotten, left behind in the frantic race that has now ended. Sleep, you realize, was never a prize to be won at the end of a great quest. It was not a fortress to be taken by storm with an army of machines. It is a shy creature, drawn to stillness. It is a quiet tide, drawn to a peaceful shore. It only arrives when the fighting has stopped. You feel its approach now, not as an enemy you have finally captured, but as a gentle visitor, finally venturing into the quiet clearing you have made for it in your mind. And as your consciousness begins to fray, dissolving softly into the welcome dark, you do not feel as though you are falling asleep. You feel as though you are being found. The story of that long and difficult night is over now, and the frantic energy of the search has faded, leaving only a deep and profound quiet in its place. The whirring and clanking of all those strange and wonderful machines has fallen silent, and the last of the nervous thoughts has dissolved into the soft, velvet blackness. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to solve. The journey is complete. All that remains is this stillness, this peaceful, empty space. Feel the weight of your own body, the gentle pressure of the blankets holding you, the slow, easy rhythm of your own breathing, a quiet tide rising and falling without any effort at all. The darkness behind your eyes is no longer a screen for worries, but a soft curtain that has been drawn on the day. It is a safe and quiet harbor. Let the last remnants of the story drift away now, like little paper boats on a calm, dark sea. Let them go. There is only the darkness, and the quiet, and the gentle pull of a deep and well-earned rest. There is nothing else you need to do. Nothing at all. Just let go.